So the characteristics of a fish, going back over it, they're cold-blooded, they live in water, they have paired fins, they have gills, they have scales. Most of the fish will lay large numbers of eggs. Some will have live birth. Most will breathe by closing their mouth and opening their gills, and then opening their mouth and closing their gills, putting pressure over the gills so that they can pull the oxygen out of the water. And then depending on the type of fish, they can have between 4 and 5 pairs of gills. Here we have a diagram just showing you the structures of the fish. You got the obvious, the eyes and the mouth. But then you have your dorsal fin, your caudal fin, the lateral line, which is part of the nervous system, the anal fin, the pectoral fin, pelvic fin down here, and then the gills, the gill coverings being the operculum. Now, some individuals think that dyed fish look beautiful, and you can go to different stores and you can find fish that have been dyed. You can find them that have been dipped, that have been tattooed. These fish typically are going to have a very high mortality rate. They're going to have a much shorter lifespan. They're going to have a much weaker immune system and be much more prone for future illnesses. Say the fish that are tattooed. Now, when a human goes in and they get a tattoo, they do that because they choose to do so. But when a fish gets a tattoo, they're doing this against their will. And the tattoo gun is the equivalent of taking a pencil, the size of a normal pencil, and sticking that repeatedly into the fish. So here you have a fish that has been tattooed against its will. And the question I have here is what we're doing here, are we doing this for the animal, or are we doing it for our own pleasure? Have we really made this fish look more beautiful, or have we just put the fish through a lot of pain and trauma? Another method that we have is involved dipping the fish into a chemical. The chemical basically burns away the slime coat. Fish have a slime coat that protects them from illnesses, helps them to move smoothly through the water. But dipping them eats this away, burns it away, and then they take it from there, and then they dip this fish into a highly concentrated dye. And then they remove the fish, and the fish is able to then be colored, basically dyed. You can inject dyes into the fish as well. And again, injecting the dye into the fish is the equivalent of taking a pencil, a needle the size of the pencil, and then just injecting the dye over and over into the fish until you create little pockets under the fish's skin of that dye. Well, why not? I mean, it's just a fish, right? But research has shown that fish feel pain. And it seems obvious to us that animals feel pain, but some people don't think about that. But there has been scientific studies that have shown that dogs and cats and other animals have the same ability to feel pain as we do. And that has been in several scientific literatures that's been published. So the pain system in the fish is virtually the same as in birds and mammals, humans. Now these are genetically engineered fish. These are danios. With the genetically engineered danios, the process begins by adding a fluorescent gene to the fish before it hatches from the egg. Once you've done that, the fish can grow to be an adult, mated with other fish this has happened to, and it just continues to pass that gene forward. So this is not an injection, this is not a dyeing, this is a one-time thing to the egg, and then you've got that setup of fish that will continue to produce fluorescent fish. Now the green glowfish that we see here, these have the green fluorescent protein that's found in jellyfish. and that allows them to glow in the dark or be bioluminescent in UV light. They started off doing this first, and they use these fish because Daniels are very hardy fish to check for pollutants in various streams and to see if the cleanup effort to clean up the streams, if the fish could survive. The red zebra Daniels that you see there, they had that by taking the protein from coral, and the yellow, this is from taking from another jellyfish gene. Now here we have a blood red parrotfish, and this is a hybrid fish as well. They say that it has an anatomical deformity. There's a lot of controversy around whether or not you should breed these fish. Their mouth is O-shaped. They say that these fish can't thrive because they can't get enough food in. I have had these fish in the past, and my fish were little piglets. They ate a lot of food. Speaking about fish and feeling pain and having a sensation, my fish would feed out of my hand. They knew if they saw me, they would come up to the fish tank and do kind of a begging, like my dogs do, for food, and I would go over there and give them food. And they would I'd hold the food under the water and let them eat out of my hand. And that's one of our hopes, is that getting some of these tanks and some of these STEM projects going in the near future, is that you'll have the opportunity to go in and the fish will learn to eat out of your hands as well. Another issue you look at is that specialized breeding. Here we have the Livetail mollies. These are live-bearing fish. You can see Livetail because of these extended tails. That extended tail keeps those fish from mating. So you get these fish by mating others that will allow for them to have these elongated tails, but the tail gets in the way of their mating, so these fish are not going to be able to mate. Another one that we have is our balloon mollies. And individuals like the balloon mollies because they waddle when they swim. And that is because they have scoliosis right there on the back. And having that curved spine, what that's done is, you can see a normal fish and see how it's extended out. All of the organs have been pushed up to where they're in this area right there of the fish. And because they're in that area of the fish, and it's got that bent spine, it gives it a very waddled appearance in the water. And again, you have to decide what is right for you. But all of these fish right here, again, are we specialized breeding these fish for our own entertainment and to watch them waddle, but are they in distress because they have a genetic abnormality? Those are things that we'll have to consider. And I say that because now look at this page. Look at the beauty of these fish. And none of these were dipped, dyed, tattooed. And yet we had the most supreme artist design these fish. And so why should we try to dip and dye and tattoo these fish to make them beautiful when we have such an array of fish that are just incredibly beautiful? Are we trying to play God? Are we trying to do this for our own selfish needs? Are we doing this for the fish's well-being? Things to think about. But there is just an array of beautiful, beautiful fish out there, both freshwater and saltwater, that can be kept in aquariums safely without doing any kind of damage to the fish and giving a very healthy, happy life to a pet. And then finally, I've got my engineer gobies here. And my engineer gobies, these are some saltwater fish. Here I've got my little engineer goby right here, and he does mimicry. And so you'll notice that he looks like these right here, and these are marine catfish. These are venomous. So he gives the appearance of being this marine catfish to protect himself when he's too small. And as he grows and he's able to protect himself as he gets older, then he converts over to looking more like this as an adult.